finals preview video. We're finally at that point in the season. Very soon we will know who the biggest joke is and who we will be calling frauds, fraud title winners for the rest of time. Alright? That's how this works. There's no real winners. Even if you win, even if you happen to be one of the 30 teams, you can still be called a fraud for eternity. I don't know if the Mavs, I don't know if that's possible for them. The Celtics, definitely possible. But yeah, here it is. You know, you go into every year, you got a couple of contenders, you got a bunch of good teams, you got some rebuilding teams. You know, you kind of have a feel for what can happen, but it always goes crazy, always goes all over the place. And here we are, Boston Celtics did exactly what was expected of them all year. There are very high expectations. They were supposed to dominate the regular season and then run through the East in the playoffs. It was even easier after all the injuries and just, quite an open path for them in the East, especially once the Bucks, once they were hobbled. They're just an older team. They were, and the Knicks too. I think those two were the big ones that, once they were kind of, injured, it was over. It was over. It gave the chance for the Pacers to show their stuff, make a run. Just wasn't enough, but they had a great year. And then in the West, I don't know if it gets much harder than it has been for the Mavs. You got the Clippers round one. I know they didn't have Kawhi, but a lot of vets on that team, a lot of good players. And then Paul George. But other than that, Clippers, they got guys. They got guys. They got Ty Lue. That's a tough matchup. They made quick work of that. Got the dub. And then they run into the 1 seed the next round. Thunder, great year, young team. I'd say that was probably the easiest one of all of them. Just the Thunder, they're very good. But, everyone, I don't know. Maybe I don't see enough, hear enough, but I don't think anybody had the Thunder as, title contenders. It's they're really good. They're just really young. They're not there yet. Them losing to the Mavs, pretty reasonable prediction. If it wasn't the Mavs, it was going to be somebody else that was solid. Was going to take them out. They just never felt like true contenders as good as they were. They're just so young. But Mavs took them out, and they run into the Timberwolves. They're coming off hot. A nice hot win against defending champs. Everybody feels good after taking out the defending champs. And, the Nuggets, it went 7 games, and, it ended, and it's Bruce Brown, they needed Bruce Brown to win a title. That's probably true, but the reality is, the Nuggets, they could have came out on top. The Timberwolves just happened to get it done. Their guys came together at the right time. And Cat made plays, so that helps. But, they went to 7 games, and Timberwolves came out on top. Could have easily went the other way. It just didn't. And that's the crazy thing about a lot of these is, they could go one way, they could go another. But after 7 games, you know who should be moving on. And yeah, Mavs, they get the Timberwolves. But, the Mavs, what a nightmare matchup they ended up being for the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, they got a lot of big guys, so helped them out a lot against the Nuggets. But what's crazy is the Mavericks, they got two good big guys. They got them. They got guys. They got Lively in the draft. I can't believe a rookie is making the impact that he is. And, at the deadline, they get another backup in Gafford from the Wizards, which, beginning of the year, everybody knew Gafford was probably going to get plucked at the deadline. Crazy stuff. And then just, to add PJ Washington into that mix, what he's done, just being a third scorer, really. I'd say Lively's probably the third best guy behind those first two, but PJ he's been incredible for them, especially in some of the earlier rounds. But, this is crazy stuff. Like, you look at the team last year, and it's just like, yeah, they got Kyrie and Luka, but the team is not good. Like, you're adding Grant Williams. You need Grant Williams to make this team better. You're in trouble. But you get to the draft, they take Lively. It's like, oh, great pick. One of the best centers on the board after Wemby. But they get Lively. Everyone knew he had pretty good upside because of the athleticism, the length. He's a good rim protector and just a perfect fit with Luka. I mean, wow. But even with that, it's like, all right, well, you still need a whole team, like 3 guys, one of which being a rookie, not quite enough, and get to the deadline, and just like that, and then also Derrick Jones Jr. adding him. I mean, he's having one of his best years. So adding a guy like that, just a solid role player, that's what you need. And then, like we said, Gafford, PJ, crazy additions. And then, even at the deadline, when they add those guys, it's like, yeah, well, how often do teams add guys like this and they just, gel and make the run that year? How often does that happen? I don't think it's this year. Maybe next year for these guys. They should be pretty good for next year. But no, this year. They did it this year. They're in the final, and they have a really good shot to win it. Crazy stuff, but gotta give it to the Mavs. Like I said, like, beginning of the year, it's like, all right, well, they got 2 freaks, but they need a whole squad. You need a whole team, and they managed to throw one together. I mean, that's wild. Crazy stuff, seriously. I mean, the Mavs, now that they're here, it's like, no shit, they're here. But just, before it all goes down, it just didn't. It's crazy. It's just crazy stuff. It's fun to watch. But on the other side, you got the Celtics. Man, it all goes back. It all goes back to the trade, the Nets trade. It will never be forgotten, ever. Those 3 Nets picks, 2 of which led to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. 3rd overall selection both times. Although the Celtics, they had the number 1 pick, they moved back. But that trade, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, I mean, they literally got some of the best guys from those drafts. I mean, what are the odds? Like, they could have easily picked anybody else and it would have screwed up the whole thing. But no, they got Jaylen Brown. They got Jason Tatum. Yeah. That's crazy. That is crazy. The rest of the squad, well, Horford, he was there. He left. Got traded around. They end up dumping that contract for him, which, the funny thing is, that pick that they traded with Kemba Walker for Al Horford ended up being Şengün. So they could have Şengün as a backup center rather than Al Horford. I don't know. Horford's just been such a good piece. Obviously, they would probably choose Horford every time, but it's just funny because Şengün is a solid player. But yeah, Al Horford, the Derek White trade. You look at the Derek White trade. I mean, who did they send? Nobody. Romeo Langford, he just wasn't developing. Josh Richardson, he bounces around a little bit. He's a solid role player in the right situation. He can be a solid guard, but they didn't have much of a use for him. 1st round pick went with that, and later 2028 pick swap or something. Brings over Derek White, which is crazy. That pick swap seemed like an overpay at the time, but because you just never know how a team's going to be long term. But they bring him in at the deadline that year. He looks all right, but just continues to get better and just find his role on the team. And he looks great this year. Crazy stuff. absolutely crazy. Marcus Smart, I forget the exact year, but 6 overall. They take him, heart and soul of the team, but there's always something just, great defender, but offensively just was never quite what the Celtics needed. And it just, they had a logjam at guard, and I guess the big thing was the Malcolm Brogdon physical failed. So they sent him in the trade for KP. Also got some first round picks. Bring over Porzingis immediately. Everybody knew it was going to be a good fit. Just getting the Jays a center who can shoot, space the floor, decent enough rim protector. He doesn't do as well against the really good bigs, but he's good enough. And he's been great. It's like, oh well, if he gets injured, it's not worth it. He's been injured all playoffs. They've been able to sneak through, and now they're in the finals, and they're saying he's back to pretty healthy, and he's gonna play. He's gonna play. And he'll probably be pretty good. He'll be pretty important in this one. So yeah, that trade went through. You got Malcolm Brogdon on the roster after, he had a good year too, but he didn't quite fit in with this squad, even though he accepted the 6-man role. So it's like, alright, well, we gotta move Brogdon at some point. Dame Lillard trade happens. Holiday gets sent to the Blazers. Everybody knew the Blazers were gonna try to flip Holiday for more picks. And the Celtics, they stepped right up. They had those Warriors picks. That one ended up in the lottery this year. So they had those picks. Blazers were interested by what they had to offer. And it worked out. They brought in Drew Holiday, arguably a much better fit than Marcus Smart. And, they sent Rob Williams too, but always injured. He was injured the entire year this year as well. He didn't play much, if at all. I don't even know, but you can't make this stuff up. Incredible moves from Brad Stevens. These two teams in the finals. Really just some incredible moves to build the roster and make themselves contenders so that they can get to this point and have a chance. And then, the Celtics, they got a couple bench pieces, but I don't even know. We'll see who even plays. I'm sure Hauser, Pritchard should get some minutes. I wonder if Brissett will get any. Probably not, but we'll see. We'll see who they go with. But yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy good rosters. Those top 6, 7, 8. These rotations that these teams have they're good. They're good. It's crazy. It is crazy. Alright, so let's take a look. I would like to make a prediction for the entire series, but I don't think that's right. I want to do one game at a time. I'm hoping I can pump out videos one game at a time. So we'll take it slow. Game 1, it's in Boston, 8:30, 6-6, on Thursday. -6.5 for the Celtics. Not bad. Should have Porzingis. He's a game time decision. Mavericks. They got Prosper is game time decision, but I don't even know if he's been playing much. Maybe he hasn't because of injury, but Mavs are pretty much healthy. They're pretty much good, but yeah, crazy stuff. So we'll go with Celtics. Celtics at home in this first one. If they're gonna lose a game at home, it'll probably be game 2. But yeah, it's funny. Just a few years ago, Kyrie was on the Celtics. 2 years ago, KP was on the Mavs. It's crazy. they switched up teams, and now they're all going against each other. But it's wild stuff. Luka, Kyrie, Tatum, Jalen, Porzingis, Holiday, PJ, Lively. Just so many good players in this one. So many good players. But, yeah, definitely going to have to go with the Celtics in this first game. Yeah, and then, I mean, it helps out Kleba. Kleba's back for the Mavericks. So, yeah, he's no longer injured. But Josh Green gives him some solid minutes. But they have a mix of guys that they can use, really. But yeah, wow. It's here. It is time. It's on Thursday. I'll probably get a mock draft video up. I've been working on 2K rebuilds. I attempted to do one. The recording failed. I now realize how difficult this stuff is. No, it's not difficult. I had a technical error, and it screwed up the entire thing, so that's why. It was going to be the Hawks too, and it was a good one too. I had a good video going, but the whole thing's messed up. Because the one clip, yeah, I don't want to talk about it, but yeah, doing those videos, that stuff is a lot tougher than I thought it would be. But it is what it is. So that's going to be it. Hawks rebuild